What happens when police surround a 12-year-old black boy in a wheelchair just for handing out water? They had no idea who his father was. What happened next turned everything upside down. It was the kind of Georgia heat that made grown men rethink life choices, the kind that melted the line between patience and fury and had folks praying for clouds like it was a religious revival. Right there, on the corner outside Jefferson Market, sat 12-year-old Jaden Ellis in his wheelchair, one wheel slightly squeaky, but his spirit still smooth as jazz. Jaden wasn't selling anything. He wasn't hustling. He wasn't out there trying to make a quick buck, as the judgmental like to assume. He was simply handing out water, bottled water, ice cold, from a cooler his mama, Denise, had packed that morning. On the side, a big handmade sign said it all: free water, stop, cool off, with love, 3. And that last part? That wasn't just decor. It was Jaden through and through. Despite being born with cerebral palsy, despite a body that didn't always listen to him the way it should, his heart showed up loud and proud every single day. Folks responded. People passing by wiped their foreheads, smiled, and said, "Thank you, lil' man," or "You're an angel in this heat." Some pressed $1 in his hand. Others knelt to fist bump him. Jaden grinned like the world finally made sense. That smile, crooked, shy, but burning bright, was the kind of smile you remember years later. His mama stood nearby, arms crossed, proud and watching. She wasn't just supervising. She was witnessing her son do something pure, something necessary in a world that rarely gave back to boys like him. Jaden wasn't waiting to be rescued or pitied. He was out there giving, and giving from the heart. But goodness, as we know too well, is a fragile thing in a country where black skin still reads like a red flag. Exactly 36 minutes into Jaden's good deed shift, a police cruiser rolled up slow, as if someone had called in a national emergency. Black child being kind in public. 2 white officers stepped out, not with curiosity, but with suspicion painted all over their faces. One of them, tall, broad-shouldered, sunglasses glued to his face like he was auditioning for an action movie, gave the cooler a once-over. The other walked up to Denise like she owed him an explanation for breathing. "What's going on here? Y'all got a permit for this?" Denise straightened up. She wasn't scared, not yet, but every muscle in her body tensed, like it had been trained to. "He's handing out water," she said evenly. "It's over 100 degrees today." The officer didn't even blink. "You got a permit?" She held her tongue. Jaden turned his head toward the officer, confused. His grip tightened on the armrest of his chair. That's when the taller officer, the one with the tactical walk and the "I need to be in control" energy, stepped in and, without a word, pushed Jaden's wheelchair back about a foot, like he was furniture in the way, like he needed to make sure the boy wasn't hiding a bazooka under a blanket. Jaden froze, then his lip trembled, then the tears started. Hot, fast, uncontrollable. Not from pain, from shame. That crowd that had once smiled, now they frowned. Phones came out. A middle-aged man in a Braves cap started recording. A young woman gasped. "He's just a kid," someone said. But the second officer turned around, voice sharp. "Stop recording. This is an official police matter. You're interfering." Interfering with what? A humanitarian act? The next part? It only got worse. The officer turned to Denise and demanded ID. She handed it over. He held it like he was testing its weight. Then came the kicker. "We need proof of his condition. You say he's disabled. Got anything medical?" Now, let's pause. As if Jaden's very presence in a custom wheelchair wasn't enough. As if his bent posture and trembling hands were part of some elaborate hoax. As if his mama, a black woman, couldn't be trusted to speak truth unless backed by paperwork. Denise, jaw clenched, reached into her bag and silently pulled out a folded document. Jaden sat there, red-eyed, sniffling, still trying to understand what he did wrong. They called for backup. Let that sink in. Not because he was armed, not because he was threatening anyone, but because they decided a 12-year-old black boy handing out free water was breaking the law, or at least bending it enough to justify authority flex. Within minutes, more sirens. The crowd grew tense. A woman shouted, "This is wrong!" Another, "He's out here doing good, and y'all acting like he robbing people." Jaden, seeing the second cruiser arrive, began to panic. His breathing quickened. His fingers curled into fists. Then came the cry, not loud, but enough to hush the street. "Please don't. I just wanted to help people." And right then, the whole street held its breath. This child, this baby, who came out with nothing but a cooler, a Sharpie sign, and a good heart, was now surrounded by officers like he'd committed a felony. And that, right there, is the truth too many people don't want to see. There's something about a crowd watching injustice unfold that makes the air feel thick, like breathing through syrup. That's exactly what the sidewalk outside Jefferson Market had become. Hot, tense, and humming with disbelief. And right there, in the center of it all, were Jaden and his mother, boxed in by flashing lights and badges that had clearly forgotten who they were supposed to protect. Now, there were 4 officers on the scene. 4. Jaden sat frozen in his wheelchair, trying to disappear into himself. His eyes darted back and forth between the uniforms, the guns on their hips, and the murmuring crowd. His mother stood beside him, visibly shaking. Not from fear, but from the weight of being too familiar with the script. Then one of the officers, the same one who had shoved the boy's wheelchair back like it was lawn furniture, stepped forward again. Voice firm, hand on his belt, he said, "We need to verify his information. Full name, date of birth." Denise snapped her head toward him, eyes wide. "He's a child. You can't just—" "Ma'am," the officer cut in flatly. "If he's engaged in unlicensed street vending, he's subject to local ordinances. That's city code." Let's pause and unpack that. In what world does handing out free bottled water under the scorching sun equal illegal street vending? But this wasn't about water, and everybody on that block knew it. This was about control, and a system that sees a young black boy in a wheelchair as a potential threat instead of a blessing. Then came the moment that snapped what little calm was left. The officer leaned in, reached toward Jaden's armrest, and gripped it. Firm, uninvited. "Just checking the device," he muttered. Jaden jerked back like he'd been shocked. His whole body stiffened, eyes rolled up. He started breathing fast, too fast. His arms trembled. Denise screamed, "Don't touch him! He has panic attacks!" But the officer didn't let go, not right away. It was only when the crowd started shouting that he backed off. And by then, it was too late. Someone yelled, "He's a child!" Another, "That's assault, man! What are y'all doing?" A third voice, deeper and angrier, "That's beyond your job. That's crossing the line." But the officers stayed locked in, like stone. No apologies, no pause. One of them grabbed Denise by the arm, not hard, but firm enough to make every mother in the crowd flinch. "We need to file an incident report," he said, walking her away from her son like she was the one disturbing the peace. And just like that, Jaden was left alone, in a wheelchair, surrounded by cops, tears rolling down his cheeks, fists clenched in his lap. That sign, "With Love 3, now laid flat under a boot print. And that's when the mood on that corner shifted, because through the crowd walked a man, tall, broad, and walking like the ground owed him respect. His skin glistened with sweat, but his steps were calm, intentional. He wore a sleeveless black gym shirt soaked through at the collar, the back read, UFC East Region, Combat Team. Heads turned. A woman near the curb whispered, "Wait, is that—" The man didn't stop, didn't raise his voice, just walked straight through the tension, like he'd been training his whole life for this exact moment. He stopped in front of Jaden, looked down. The boy looked up. And then the man turned to the officers, his face unreadable. But his eyes could cut glass. One officer started, "Sir, you need to—" The man raised a hand, not fast, not threatening, just enough. "Did you touch my son?" he asked. Low, controlled, but there was steel in that voice. The younger officer, the one who'd been barking orders like he was running boot camp, blinked. Something shifted in his face. Recognition, maybe even regret. The crowd started to murmur. "That's Marcus Crawford." "No way. The UFC guy?" "He was on ESPN last year, semifinalist." "That's him." Marcus took one slow step closer to Jaden, then knelt beside the wheelchair. "You good, son?" he asked. Jaden nodded slowly, but didn't speak. His chest still heaved with shallow breaths. Marcus turned and looked at Denise, still being held near the patrol car. Her arm twisted slightly in the officer's grip. His voice sharpened, but didn't rise. "Let her go." The officer hesitated. "Let her go." Denise ran back to Jaden, and Marcus stood up. Now he was between the boy and the officers, full height, back straight, fists relaxed by his sides, but his presence? Unshakable. One of the officers reached for his radio. "We may need PIO on site," he muttered. "Public Information Officer. Code for, this just got bigger than we can handle." But it was already too late. A young guy in the crowd had started live streaming. The caption read, "Police harass disabled black kid, then dad shows up. You'll never guess who he is." Marcus looked straight into the camera, not angry, not wild, just focused. "You came after a child. You surrounded him. You touched him. You tried to intimidate his mother. You're going to explain yourselves on camera, right here, right now." Nobody moved. The silence said everything. They thought they were dealing with a weak little family. They didn't know who they were dealing with. The crowd had doubled, maybe tripled. What started as whispers turned into a low, rolling wave of voices. Angry, confused, fired up. Phones were raised like protest signs. Every angle caught, every word recorded. The live stream, viral. Tens of thousands were already watching. The title alone was enough to stop people mid-scroll. Disabled black kid harassed by cops. Then dad walked up. Watch what happens next. And just as the tension felt like it couldn't stretch any further without snapping, it did. A third police cruiser pulled up, slowly, like it didn't want to be there. Inside it, a white officer, older, maybe late 50s, clean uniform, too polished for real street work, stepped out. His badge read Captain R. Dorsey, the kind of man who spent decades smoothing over messes his department caused. He surveyed the scene like a man stepping into a fire, wearing paper shoes. He looked at the crowd, the phones, the faces, then at the black child trembling in his wheelchair, then at the officers behind him, standing stiff, eyes bouncing like pinballs, and finally at Marcus. Now Marcus. He hadn't moved, still standing tall in front of his family like a damn monument, arms crossed, shoulders squared, calm as a quiet storm. And that intensity in his eyes, it didn't blink. The captain cleared his throat. "Mr. Crawford, let's all take a breath. We're going to, work through this misunderstanding." Marcus tilted his head, one eyebrow lifted. "Misunderstanding?" His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It cut straight through the heat. "3 of your officers surrounded my son, a 12-year-old boy in a wheelchair. You made him cry, accused him of illegal vending for handing out water in a heat wave." He pointed at the crushed cardboard sign still lying on the sidewalk. "With love, 3. "That's not a misunderstanding," Marcus continued. "That's a sickness. That's your system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Treat black children like suspects before you even learn their names." Boom! The crowd erupted. Applause, cheers. A woman shouted, "Speak it, brother!" Another yelled, "We see you, Jaden!" The captain glanced at his officers, suddenly looking smaller in their uniforms. One stared at the ground like it might swallow him whole. The other swallowed hard, fists clenching behind his back. Marcus stepped forward, just one pace, not aggressive, just deliberate. "We're filing a formal complaint, but that's just the start," he said. "There will be statements, press, legal support. This won't disappear behind your closed doors." He paused and then turned toward the crowd, not just speaking to them, but for them. "This isn't just about my son. This is for every kid who got shut down before they even had a chance to rise up. Every mother who's had to stay calm so she didn't get labeled uncooperative. Every family who didn't have the platform or the training or the muscle to stand up to this madness." Phones rose higher. Comments flooded the live stream. "Preach. Protect black children. This is the leadership we need." That night, clips of Marcus's words lit up social media like wildfire. News anchors quoted him. Podcasts dissected the footage. Activists reposted it with captions like, "A father's strength, a child's courage." Within 48 hours, the city announced that the 3 involved officers were placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The department's social media page posted a lukewarm statement. "We are reviewing all procedures," but it was too late. The story had taken on a life of its own. Marcus sat down for interviews with national networks not as a fighter, but as a father. Calm, focused, unwavering. He spoke about the racism he faced coming up in the ring, the jobs he didn't get, the questions he couldn't ask, and how none of it prepared him for the day his son had to face that same system without even leaving the sidewalk. And Jaden became a symbol, not of trauma, not of pity, but of strength. His little sign, "Stop, Cool Off with Love 3, got printed on t-shirts, posters, protest signs. Schools started using his story to teach about compassion, about action, about standing tall, even when the world tries to knock you down before you can even stand on your own. Letters poured in, from kids who stuttered, from kids with wheelchairs, from kids who looked like Jaden and saw themselves in his fight. And through it all, he smiled. Not because his name was trending, not because cops got suspended, but because in the middle of all the noise, he finally felt something deeper. His voice mattered. His kindness had power. And that power, it couldn't be touched. Not by hate, not by uniforms, not by fear. Jaden was never weak. He was right. And this time, the world listened.